circling them, watching, waiting. Around midnight, Tyler finally gathered enough courage to look outside. The forest appeared empty, then movement caught his eye, a figure, standing between two trees far beyond the firelight, motionless, watching. Tyler's pulse skyrocketed. He blinked, the figure vanished. He immediately woke the others. Together they searched the darkness. Nothing remained, no figure, no sound, only silence. At dawn they abandoned most of their equipment and started walking again. Hours later they finally reached a ranger station. Exhausted, terrified, confused, the ranger listened carefully to their story. When they finished, his expression had changed. Without saying a word, he walked into a back office and returned carrying a faded photograph. The image showed a group of hikers standing beside several tents. Tyler felt sick. The tents matched the abandoned campsite exactly. The ranger explained that the photo had been taken 11 years earlier. The hikers had disappeared during a weekend camping trip. Every member of the group vanished. Search teams never found them. No bodies, no evidence, nothing. Only their abandoned campsite, located beyond trail marker 12. Tyler stared at the photograph, then noticed something that made his blood run cold. Hidden among the hikers stood a man, watching the camera, standing slightly apart from everyone else. The same figure Tyler had seen between the trees the night before. The ranger quietly took back the photograph, then revealed one final detail since those hikers disappeared. Multiple visitors had reported finding the same abandoned campsite, the same tents, the same belongings, the same smoldering fire, yet whenever rangers investigated the reports, the campsite was gone, completely gone. No evidence remained, nothing at all. To this day, trail marker 12 still exists. Most hikers never go beyond it, but every few years someone ignores the warnings, and every so often a frightened camper reports discovering an occupied campsite deep in the woods. A campsite where the fire is still warm, the tents are still standing. And it looks as though the owners might return at any moment. The problem is, according to park records, those owners disappeared more than a decade ago. This was the end of this story. The hunter in the fog. 38-year-old Jacob Turner had been hunting in the forests of Oregon for nearly 20 years. He wasn't reckless, he wasn't inexperienced, and he certainly wasn't the kind of person who believed every scary story told around a campfire. Jacob trusted facts, evidence, experience. Which is why what happened to him in the fall of 2023 still keeps him awake at night. The hunting trip began like dozens before it. Jacob arrived at Pine Creek Forest just before dawn. The weather forecast predicted clear skies, perfect conditions. He parked his truck near an old logging road and started hiking before sunrise. The forest was quiet, not unusually quiet, just peaceful, the kind of silence hunters appreciated. For several hours everything went according to plan. Jacob followed deer trails through the woods, stopped occasionally to glass distant ridges. By mid-morning he had moved several miles from his truck. Then the fog arrived. At first it appeared as thin patches drifting between the trees. Within minutes it became something much worse. Dense, heavy, unnatural, visibility dropped to less than 30 feet. The entire forest transformed. Landmarks vanished, trails disappeared. Even familiar terrain suddenly looked unfamiliar. Jacob wasn't worried. Fog wasn't uncommon in the mountains. He simply slowed his pace and continued. About 20 minutes later he noticed movement ahead. A man standing among the trees. The stranger wore hunting gear, orange vest, rifle slung across his shoulder. At first Jacob felt relieved. Another hunter meant he wasn't completely alone. He raised a hand. The man didn't respond. Instead, he simply turned and walked deeper into the fog. Jacob found the behavior strange, but not alarming. Some hunters preferred avoiding conversation. He continued along his route. Roughly half an hour later, he spotted the man again. The same hunter, standing between two trees, watching him. Jacob frowned. The stranger should have been miles away by now. Yet somehow he was ahead of him again. Jacob waved. Again the man didn't respond. After several seconds, the stranger turned and disappeared into the fog. A feeling of unease settled into Jacob's stomach. Something about the encounter felt wrong. Still, he continued hunting. By early afternoon, the fog had become even thicker. Visibility shrank to barely 20 feet. Every direction looked identical. Every tree looked the same. Then Jacob saw the hunter a third time, standing directly on the trail ahead, motionless, watching. This time Jacob became irritated. "Hey!" The shout echoed through the forest. No response. The hunter remained still. Jacob started walking toward him. The distance between them narrowed. 30 feet, 20, 15. Then the stranger stepped behind a tree only for a second. When Jacob reached the spot, nobody was there. The forest beyond remained empty. No footprints, no movement, nothing. The stranger had vanished. Jacob's pulse quickened. For the first time all day, he considered returning to his truck. The situation felt increasingly unsettling. Unfortunately, when he checked his GPS, another problem appeared. The device wasn't working properly. The screen flickered. Coordinates jumped randomly. His location constantly shifted. The malfunction made no sense. The unit had worked perfectly all morning. Jacob tried restarting it. Nothing changed. Now genuinely concerned, he began moving toward where he believed the logging road should be. Hours passed. The fog never lifted. The forest never changed. And several times he caught glimpses of the hunter, always ahead. Always watching, never speaking. By late afternoon, Jacob realized he was lost, truly lost. The realization hit hard. He carried enough supplies to survive the night, but remaining in unfamiliar terrain after dark was dangerous, especially in dense fog. Then something happened that made everything worse. He heard a rifle shot, close, very close. The sound echoed through the forest. Jacob immediately froze. A few seconds later, another shot followed, then another. The shot seemed to be drawing him somewhere, almost guiding him. Against his better judgment, Jacob moved toward the sound. The fog swallowed everything. For nearly 20 minutes, he followed the distant gunfire. Eventually, he emerged into a small clearing, and there he saw the hunter again, standing perfectly still, watching. For the first time, Jacob could clearly see his face. His stomach dropped. The man's expression looked completely blank. No emotion, no reaction. No sign of recognition, just an empty stare. Then Jacob noticed something else. The man's hunting clothes looked old, very old, years out of date, weathered, faded, as though they had been sitting in storage for decades. The hunter slowly raised one arm, pointing toward the opposite side of the clearing. Then he lowered it, turned, and walked into the fog. Jacob stood frozen, unsure what to do. Finally, he looked toward the direction the stranger had indicated. A steep ravine dropped away only a few feet beyond the clearing. His blood turned cold. Had he continued walking through the fog, he likely would have stepped directly over the edge. The drop appeared nearly 80 feet, maybe more. Jacob stared into the darkness below. A fall would almost certainly have been fatal. The realization shook him. Had the stranger just saved his life? The question remained unanswered. As daylight faded, Jacob found shelter beneath a rocky overhang and waited for morning. Sleep never came. Every few hours he thought he saw movement beyond the fog, a figure standing among the trees, watching, waiting. Morning finally arrived. The fog began lifting. For the first time in nearly a day, Jacob could see more than a few yards ahead. Within an hour, he located an old forestry road. By noon, he reached civilization, exhausted and relieved. At a nearby ranger station, he explained what had happened. The ranger listened quietly, then asked a strange question. Did the hunter wear an orange vest? Jacob nodded. The ranger's expression changed immediately. Without saying anything, he walked into another room. Moments later, he returned carrying an old newspaper clipping. The article was nearly 25 years old. Its headline described a hunter who had disappeared during a heavy fog. Search teams spent weeks looking for him. They never found a body, never found equipment, never found any trace at all. Only his rifle. Jacob stared at the accompanying photograph. His heart nearly stopped. The hunter in the picture was the same man, the same face, the same blank expression, the same orange vest. The ranger quietly folded the newspaper. "You're not the first person to describe him." Jacob felt a chill crawl down his spine. "What do you mean?" The ranger leaned back in his chair, then answered, "Every few years somebody gets lost in that forest." A pause. "Some of them report seeing a hunter in the fog." Jacob swallowed, and the ranger looked toward the window. "Every single person who sees him ends up finding their way out." For several moments neither spoke. Then Jacob asked the question he had been dreading. "Has anybody ever followed him?" The ranger nodded slowly. "According to reports." His voice became quieter. "Those people never came back." This was the end of this story. The ranger station at Black Pine Creek. 34-year-old Nathan Cole had worked as a forest ranger for nearly a decade. Over the years, he had dealt with everything from lost hikers to wildfires. The job demanded patience, experience, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Nathan believed he had seen it all. Then he accepted a temporary assignment at Black Pine Creek Ranger Station. The station sat deep within a remote section of national forest in northern Washington. Few visitors came through the area. Most hiking trails had been closed years earlier. According to official records, the station remained open only because it monitored several protected wilderness zones. When Nathan arrived, the place immediately felt abandoned. The building was old. The paint was peeling. Most of the surrounding cabins sat empty. The forest seemed unusually quiet, even during daylight. The nearest ranger station was nearly 2 hours away. Once Nathan settled in, he reviewed old reports left by previous staff. Most contained routine information, trail maintenance, weather conditions, wildlife sightings, nothing unusual. Then he noticed a pattern. Several reports mentioned strange noises around the station after dark. Footsteps, knocking, voices. None of the reports provided details. Most simply ended with a recommendation: remain inside after midnight. Nathan rolled his eyes. Every remote station developed local legends. He assumed this was another one. His first 3 nights passed without incident. Then the 4th night arrived. At exactly 12:43 a.m., Nathan woke to a sound outside. Footsteps. Slow footsteps crunching through gravel. At first he assumed it was a late visitor, maybe a camper, maybe another ranger. He checked the security cameras. The monitors showed empty paths, empty parking areas, empty trails, no people, yet the footsteps continued, circling the station. Nathan muted the cameras and listened. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The sound moved around the building, steady, methodical, as though someone was inspecting the station. Eventually the footsteps stopped. The silence returned. The next morning Nathan searched the area. Nothing, no footprints, no evidence, no explanation. The following night the footsteps returned, again at 12:43 a.m., again circling the building. This time they lasted nearly an hour. When Nathan checked the cameras, he noticed something strange. Camera 4 showed brief movement near an old storage shed. A shadow, gone almost instantly. He replayed the footage several times. The figure never became clear, just a dark shape moving between the trees. The sight left him unsettled. The next day, Nathan decided to inspect the storage shed. The structure sat behind the main station building, hidden beneath overgrown vegetation. The padlock looked rusted shut. After some effort, he managed to force the door open. Dust filled the air. Most of the contents consisted of broken equipment and old furniture. Then Nathan discovered a locked filing cabinet. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes, each labeled with dates. Most were more than 15 years old. Curious, Nathan carried several tapes back to the station. That evening he located an old cassette player. The first few recordings contained routine ranger reports, weather observations, wildlife encounters, trail updates. Then he played the final tape. The label read, "Ranger Hawkins." Last recording static filled the speaker. Heavy breathing followed, then a man's voice, terrified, exhausted. "This is Ranger Hawkins." A pause. "If anyone finds this." The man struggled to speak. "Don't answer the door after midnight." Nathan sat upright. The recording continued. "The footsteps started 3 weeks ago, heavy breathing. They walk around the station every night." Another pause. "Tonight they knocked." Nathan felt his stomach tighten. The voice sounded genuine, not staged, not exaggerated, terrified. Then Hawkins said something that sent chills through him. "They know my name." Static crackled across the tape. The ranger continued speaking, more frantic now. "I can hear them outside." A loud knocking interrupted the recording. 3 slow knocks, exactly 3. Nathan froze. The sound on the tape felt disturbingly real. Then came Hawkins' final words. "They're pretending to be other rangers now." Silence followed, then a distant voice. A voice from outside Hawkins' station. "Nathan." Nathan nearly dropped the cassette player. The tape stopped. The room fell silent. His own name had been spoken. The recording was over 15 years old. Yet somehow the voice had said Nathan, not Hawkins, not another ranger, Nathan. His pulse pounded in his ears. That night he couldn't sleep. Midnight arrived, then 12:43 a.m. The footsteps began, crunch, 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 circling the station. Nathan stared at the security monitors. Nothing appeared, yet the sounds continued. Then came the knocking. 3 slow knocks against the front door. Knock, knock. Knock. Nathan remained frozen. The recording echoed through his mind. "Don't answer the door after midnight." Another knock followed, then a voice muffled coming from outside. "Ranger Cole." Nathan's blood turned cold. The voice sounded familiar, very familiar. It sounded exactly like his supervisor. The same supervisor who was currently over 100 miles away. "Ranger Cole." The voice came again, calm, patient. "Open the door." Nathan didn't move. The voice continued for nearly 5 minutes. Then silence returned. Eventually the footsteps faded into the forest. Morning couldn't arrive fast enough. The next day Nathan contacted headquarters. He requested information regarding Ranger Hawkins. The response arrived several hours later. Hawkins had disappeared 17 years earlier. No body was ever recovered. No evidence was ever found. The case remained unsolved. That revelation convinced Nathan to leave. He packed immediately. Before departing, however, he reviewed the station's security recordings one final time. What he found still haunts him. At exactly 12:43 a.m. the previous night, Camera 4 captured a figure standing beside the storage shed. The image was blurry, distant, but recognizable. Nathan zoomed in. His stomach dropped. The figure wore an old Ranger uniform, a uniform matching the one shown in Ranger Hawkins' personnel photograph. For nearly 20 minutes the figure stood motionless, watching the station, watching Nathan. Then, shortly before disappearing into the trees, the figure slowly raised one arm, pointing toward the forest, as if warning him, as if trying to tell him something. Nathan left Black Pine Creek that afternoon. He never returned. Months later, the station was permanently closed, officially due to budget cuts. Unofficially, nobody wanted the assignment. Even today, hikers occasionally pass through that section of forest. Some report hearing footsteps around the abandoned ranger station after midnight. Others claim they hear voices calling their names from the darkness. And every once in a while, someone reports seeing a lone ranger standing among the trees, watching, waiting, pointing deeper into the woods, towards something hidden beyond the station, something Ranger Hawkins may have discovered shortly before he vanished, something nobody has ever found. If you are brave enough to hear more nightmares, subscribe to Tales of the Dark. And if you have your own terrifying experience, leave it in the comments or send your story by email. Maybe your nightmare will become the next story told here.